Alright, so this is the next step of the tutorial. It's actually shaping the blade. And what I'm going to go over in this video is basically, now that you've cut it out, how to fix any kind of boo-boos that you made while cutting it, and also how to shape it and put a nice bevel on the edge so you actually have an edge. So just to kind of start off, you're going to need a razor knife, the rasp, and a pencil, and of course the blade that you've cut out. So just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about when I talk about boo-boos and bumps and stuff like that, basically, most people when they cut, myself included, don't cut perfectly along the line, which is perfectly alright. So if you've got big gaps between where you've cut and the actual line that you drew, of course that's going to affect your curve. So what we're going to do is actually remove those bumps and just make sure you still have that nice smooth curve when we're done. So to start off with, just so you know, this is something to really keep in mind. When you're cutting with the razor knife, you want to go with the grain and not against it. And the way I had you cut this out is because you'll have the bottom curve and the top curve, obviously, but the way it works is from the middle, you're actually going to cut this way and this way, or if it's upside down like this, you're going to cut in this way and this way. So just think of it as like the way water would come off. So water on the dome would actually go off this way and this way. So from the middle, you would cut that way and that way. And the opposite for this, you would actually cut towards the middle because that's the way the water would flow. And that's just so you don't, catch underneath the grain and it'll pop a piece up and it'll be ruined. So always keep that in mind before you use the razor knife. So to start off with, there's a little bump that I've got right about there. And I'm just going to take care of it by starting off with the razor knife, like I said. And I'm just going to, using short little strokes, I'm just going to cut off some of that wood so it's a little bit closer to the line. So basically I'm cutting off the top of that bump that I have left. You don't have to get right to the line, but you have to get pretty close. Alright, so once you have the bump removed, you're just going to take the rasp and you're going to flatten it out. And it's going to take a couple strokes to remove it. Now the thing to remember is you have to use a rasp instead of sandpaper, because sandpaper, when you use it with just your fingers, tends to follow the wood that you're working on, so it'll actually just smooth out the bumps that you have instead of taking the top of them off. So if you're going to use sandpaper to do this instead of a rasp, you're actually going to need to put a block or a solid object behind it so you have a flat surface that you're actually shaping the wood with as opposed to just sanding it smooth. So that's why I like to use the rasp. It gives a nice flat surface to kind of work with. And you do that with all the bumps until when you look down, and this one's actually going to need some more work obviously, but until when you look down you've got this nice even curve all the way down, just like you drew it out. So always kind of keep that in mind as you're working. Be critical about that because this is the sword, literally. It's not, the rest of the stuff doesn't really make the sword, it's just visual aspects of it that make it look good. So this is where the kind of sword can be made or broken. And now we'll move on to shaping it. So the way we start off by doing that is we take a pencil and we find the middle of the blade, and we're going to actually just draw the line. It'll be right in the middle of it too. I just use my finger as a gauge to do it though. And you're just going to measure right, draw the line right there. And then on the side, you're going to do the same thing, about a ½ inch or 3/4 of an inch in. You're going to make another line all the way up. And continue that line all the way down to the tang. And what that does is that gives us a bevel guide so that when we're taking the rasp and beveling it over, we have this line to worry about and this line to worry about. And it'll be the same on the other side. You draw another line here when you're ready for that. And then basically what we're doing is you can start off with just the razor knife, or you can just move right to the rasp. And if you're using the razor knife, all you're doing is you're just taking the corner off. Just about a 45-degree angle to the wood, and you're just taking the corner. Not a lot of wood, just a little bit of the corner off, and that just saves you some work for now. And what we're doing here is we're actually going to take the rasp flat, and we're actually just going to lift it up as we push off. So we're going to knock off the corner, but that's the motion that you use. It's just straight across, and then you just lift your wrist or lift the end of the rasp up so it actually creates this curve that you're actually shaving. So when you really move along with it, you can see I've started to hit that line right there, and I've started to wear away this pencil line right here. So that piece right there is just about done. And of course you do that the entire length. So that's what creates this nice even bevel, and you're going to aim for that all the way around. Just make sure that you start wearing away this line here, and you get to about the middle of the wood here marked by your line. And that should really help you using those guidelines. And now, maybe you're wondering, okay, so what about the tang? How does that affect the tang? Well, I've already started doing it here. Same thing all the way down to this part, right where the notch is. And then you're going to take that notch, you're actually going to draw a line, and you're going to draw it all the way down to create, if you remember from last video, there's a flat part right here underneath this notch. So once you've created this line all the way through, you're going to treat it the same exact way. You're actually going to take your knife and cut the corner off of it, and then you're going to start using the rasp to get this corner right where you want it, and then you're just going to continue that all the way down. But instead you're going to have this as your guideline and this as your guideline, which is determined, this line is determined right here in this corner where that notch would be, because of that'll give you your nice flat edge on the top of the tang, but still create this bevel that'll be even with the rest of it. So that's pretty much how it's all done, the entire shaping process, and it goes the same thing in case you're wondering all the way through to the tip. So just do that all the way through, and then when you're done you're probably going to want to sand it down to about 120, 150. You don't have to worry about going all the way because you still have some work left to do. In the next video I'll cover the bowhide and how to cut that out, and I'll catch up with you there.